Okay, thank you also to invite me to this, I think, very important symposium. I'm a technical director or sport director in our national federation, which is a small country, less than 4 million people lives there. We have 70 clubs, but we have 2 Olympic medals in gymnastics, 5 or 6 world, and I don't count European medals, so I think we are successful in gymnastics. I work also as a NOC, an Olympic Committee, as a sport coordinator for High Performance Center, so deal with the young potential athletes who's stuck with the problems, and especially this safeguarding is very important also to us. So I always, you know me, who know me, do know me that I always start with why we are here. We are different culture, different countries, different social status, different education, but we are here because we love gymnastics. And I think this is one of the important things what we need to take from here, that gymnastics, it's our sport and we love him, and we need to do everything to protect all parties in all our gymnastics community. Of course, gymnasts are in the center of everything. Without gymnasts, we don't have a national championship, we don't have a world championship. Gymnast really, it's in the center of everything. But also, the first pillar of the gymnast, it's his coach, because without coach, who will train the gymnast? How he can go to this level where he wants to go? This is the first pillar, crucial pillar. It's his coach, personal or team of the coaches of the group. But the second, the crucial pillar, it's the parents, because gymnastics are start very young age, and kids came to the gym, and because the parents take them, and then the coach and parents need to be together to lead them to the high level. I think those 2 pillars are crucial, and all this safeguarding, what we start to work, it's need to be based on this to protect everybody. So what I will underline what I heard from the previous speaker, it's why we are here, and why everybody say that we need to communicate. We need to communicate, and we need to communicate well, because sometimes communication needs to be two-way, and we need to be sure that all parties included, they communicate proper. So they need to establish their goals. They need to be sure that gymnasts and coach are on the same way. They have same goal. Different goals can lead to different conclusion. Parents as well. We as federation need to support this. Without gymnasts, we don't need federation, because without coaches we cannot have nothing. So this is the key. This is the key for me, because sometimes coach or somebody will say something wrong, or he want to say good things on the wrong time, on the wrong way. So I think that high-level coach need to be also high-level communication person, because this is each day they communicated. A lot of coaches are also from the small countries. There are drivers, there are masseurs, they don't have team as a bigger country. They need to play more roles than one. The cooker, chef in the kitchen, because not money for all these things, but it's normal. And then sometimes some problems can also appear. So interpersonal communication, it's also very important. Not what I say today, with tone I say, how my body language is. It's also what Hiroki say. He crossed the legs. Today no training. When you see your gymnast when he came to the gym, immediately you know what kind of training you will have. So I think then we can go to what we need to do and how we need to do to protect all parties. This is the key, to protect them, not to go and to attack something. We need to protect, and the federations need to establish clear procedures, policies, code of conduct, what is necessarily, and really good from the FIG, it's that they already have a lot of materials done. You can find it easily on the page, and you can download, and this is like a first step what you can do, even if you don't have money to develop big things. But FIG already have something, and we will participate at the workshop, we will show you where they can find and how they can find this. And then, of course, they need to have programs for strength this. So for prevention program, they need to have a program for the parents, especially our federation. We create a program for the parents because a lot of times parents, okay, what is my explanation of the stress or the frustration? It's where you are now and where you want to be or where you need to be. So the biggest gap is, so more you're frustrated is. So if we, with communication skills, if we communicate proper and establish that those goals are reachable, so everything needs to be smart, you know, smart. Specific, measurable, achievable, that you can achieve this, realistic and timely. So each federation needs to prepare not big plan, but plan what can they really achieve in a short, on what time, what period of time, what they want to do. So basically the strength is to prevention. So it's awareness campaign. It's to knowledge. It's everything. Knowledge is the biggest power. Because the success, it's a journey. It's not a destination. So this is for my message to all of you, that we need to work hard, listen all parties, educate all parties, work on awareness campaign. So this is everything what can lead that our sport will be again top at the Olympic Games. Thank you.
And thank you to the FIG and to the Belgian Federation. It's a real honour, and I'm really humbled to be here to share with you the journey that I've been on since I've joined Singapore Gymnastics. Just so everyone, in case you don't know, my little red dot is in Southeast Asia. It's not very big, 70 kilometres by 27. It's 4,500 people, 1 million people. Not big at all. And it does look very beautiful. So if you've ever been there, it looks magnificent. It looks like we have everything under control, thanks to Mr. Lee Kuan Yew. If you ever get to come, I'd love to host you because it is a very beautiful city. But there are some short factors, and there were some things that weren't in place when I arrived in 2017, when my journey started. We know that prevention of safeguarding is about awareness and action. I got there in 2017. There wasn't a lot of awareness. There wasn't a lot of discussion. And heaven forbid this Australian woman coming in with her strange accent talking about safeguarding did put a few people on edge and quite uncomfortable. But they're the conversations that we need to have. I also realised, why does it occur? There's a lot of research that says it's because of lack of processes and support. That definitely wasn't in place. There was no processes, there was no support. There's also a lack of awareness. I could have counted how many people would have had a conversation with me when I first arrived in 2017. Lack of knowledge. They all just thought it was sexual abuse. It's so much more. And the verbal abuse that you encounter is there, and it's very prominent when I first walked into some of the gyms. And lack of confidence. Some people were aware, but they didn't have the confidence to speak out. Some of the athletes knew better. Some of the parents. Even now I struggle getting them to speak out because of our type of society. It's a compliance society. We don't want to speak out. We don't want to rock the boat. But that's what I ended up with. So where did we start? Apart from I was very, very stressed. What was in place in the Federation? I've already said there was nothing. We had a coach education that had just started. We had a database in an Excel spreadsheet. I didn't even know which coaches and where to find them. What materials could be found in Singapore? I knocked on the door of Sports Singapore. At that stage, they weren't having conversations. It was a taboo. I was lucky though, I identified that there was a couple of people that were champions in Sports Singapore. Funny enough, they weren't Singaporeans at that stage. And who could help me in Singapore? These are these people that I could find, that I could start to talk to, so we could start the movement. And it was a movement, and I'm really grateful for some of those people coming along the journey. But I did have limited resources. While Singapore looks like a rich country, we don't have a lot of money. I had 4 staff when I started. Now I have 8 staff because I go for funding. I get an extra staff every year and a half. I just try and push that point that I can do better if I have more resources. So one of the things I remembered is I don't want to invent the wheel. I've done a lot of work already in the Oceania region, in Australia. The US had done a lot of work. GB had done a lot of work. There's a lot of things already out there. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. I'm very happy to copy. Phone a friend. I phoned a lot of friends. Leaned on them, asked them for support, even asked them for advice. Sometimes it was, do you think I'm crazy? And the answer was probably sometimes yes. But it was important to have those people to support and tell you that you're on the right journey. My local allies, they started to build. And one person built into 2, built into 3, and then it was the locals that were starting to also come on that journey, which is really exciting when you have the locals join you on that journey. And expert organisations, I did start to look at what organisations in Singapore and out could assist me. I can't do it alone. I've got 4 staff. None of them actually understand safeguarding. They come from a totally different culture. I needed to get some expert organisations on board. I also did a lot of reading, researching and tapping into resources that I could have. Now, my key stakeholders, I realised that the clubs, coaches, parents and athletes were my 4 key people. Clubs are where the ecosystem is. That's where it all happens. As an NSA, they're the people that I can talk to. They're the ones that I can talk to the most. And then they're coaches. Both of those are on the cold face, as we call it. But I also know in a little Singapore context, parents are very, very important. We've got helicopter parents. I don't know if you've ever heard, but we have tiger mums. We also have tiger dads. So it's important that we connect with these guys, but most important is the athletes who hadn't had a voice for a very long time. So I did a plan. It did look a bit like this. It's been changed a lot, and I say 2017, but if you think of some of the journey that we've had on, a lot of things happened around 2018, 19. Gee, I had a lot of rubbing out, changing direction, and making sure that the plan stayed really on track, but also it stayed with the voice of the athletes at all times. But we had to build foundations. We didn't even have a constitution that invited clubs to be part of the federation. They didn't have a voice. We didn't have athlete members. They were all just jumped into one. So coaches weren't even members. They were just others. So we developed a membership structure. We changed the constitution. That's your foundations that you need to make sure that you can actually get this beast under control. After that, we had a policy that embraced the members. We wanted to make sure that every member, if they had an issue, they could come, they could air their grievances, and there was a process. I got a working group together because at that stage was a little stressed and a little grayer. And then we actually launched a federation, a commitment statement to the public. This is our commitment statement. It was about 2018. We declared the commitment statement, and it was really exciting that even Sports Singapore were along on the journey. I love a good logo. So this was our first logo. This is how naive I was at 2017. I call it child safety. It's grown to be so much more now. The logo's still the same, it's just the wording that's changed. But what we did was, the next thing we wanted to do was really get to our clubs. We know that that's where it all happens. They employ the coaches. They get the daily training environment for the athletes. So off we charged. Well, I did, with a couple of people dragging behind me. But it was about awareness, knowledge, confidence, and then processes and support. We do individual club visits. Now that's easy when you've got a small country, and we've got 35 clubs, but after 35 1.5 to 3 hour sessions, you do feel a little bit battered, but that's where we started to talk and make the conversations happen about what happens in your gym, what do you think is appropriate, not appropriate. We had club forums, we have coffee catch-ups. These all still happen regularly. I'm just off the club visits before I arrived here, so I do feel a little bit battered because it feels like we never do anything right, but that's okay. But we still have the conversations about child safety, about coach behaviour, positive reinforcement. Then we knew that these club administrators didn't have a lot of information, so we set up resources. So there's a third level consulting. It's a free resource if you're a member of Singapore Gymnastics. We developed a Trello board where you can dump a whole heap of information and the clubs can access all the information that we get. So when the IOC bring out the toolkit, in it goes. FIG bring things in, it's all there so the clubs can get access easy. We have a club congress where we discuss things like HR. How do you recruit the right type of coach? How do you ensure they're the right type of coach? Then we went around confidence. It is really tough. So how do we get the clubs put out and the community have confidence in our clubs? They also put out commitment statements. Now, I think in the beginning, it's about, is it a commitment statement that stays on the shelf and no one reads? Yeah, probably. We made sure that they put it on their website. That was first. Then, the next year, we actually asked them to give us these examples of how they implemented it. How did you show that you were committed to making sure you had a safe environment for everybody? And it wasn't just a safe environment for athletes, it was a safe environment for coaches and administrators and judges as well. We were focusing on a safe environment for all. Not everyone likes to follow and not everyone's readily agreeance with it, so we do have an annual affiliation sign-off. So every club, if they want to become affiliated with us, have to sign off, have to do certain things around safe sport. They've got to be part of the Club Quality Assurance program which we developed. We also made them appoint a person in charge of safe sport. And we developed our own, not so good, but okay, little questionnaire that brought awareness. So the club had some awareness of what was safe sport. And the clubs had to then send the certificate in and then we could affiliate them. We now make sure that they have safeguarding officers. They have to tick all of these before they affiliate with us every single year. And we add something every year just to make it exciting for them. We also had to look after our coaches because most importantly, we didn't want to go. These were the people that I wanted to protect the most. I've been there, I started as a coach. So we started the workshops, we started discussions. We started talking about to the coaches, how are you feeling? How can we help you? We also changed the coaching curriculum. The coaching curriculum was there, wasn't very robust, so we developed it. We added more into it about child safety, how to spot us appropriately, how to speak to athletes. We then offered partnered with Positive Sports Coaching. They could do these 4 online workshops for free, and then if you did it, you could get your technical membership the next year free. So we tried to offer many incentives, but also tried to get the coaches on board. They do have to have an accreditation. Now, it started in 2020, it was a lot of work and it was a lot of heartache, but you can't go on to our field of play in any competition unless you're accredited and registered coach with Singapore Gymnastics. You also have to complete, of course we've got a little online course that we started for them as well as the administrators that you had to do as well. This had to be how you accredited with us going back about 2 years. So we used the carrot and stick motivation at all times. You saw we tried to make it, oh, it's free, clubs, it's all free for you. And then we said, but if you want to affiliate, you're going to have to do it all. But it is becoming a norm. Not a norm that people don't stop talking about child safety, but a norm that no one questions it. But I pause. I haven't even talked about my own backyard. What was I doing in my own backyard? I have to lead by example. And gee, there was a lot of things that weren't good. And a lot of things that were pretty upsetting. So we changed a few things. Of course, we needed to start at the top. We did workshops with the board, all our committees, our staff, and also our coaches. Professional development started with our coaches, and I think everyone's talked about interpersonal skills. I call them the soft skills. People don't like that. We taught them what's the best way to communicate. How can we protect you? We actually had some really good conversations when they said, well, how do I correct this without the athlete, taking the wrong message? So we brought experts in to help our coaches as much as possible. We also have a really big issue in Singapore. It's not an issue, it's probably exciting, but we're multilingual, and most of our coaches, English is not their first language. So we had English lessons. Now, it wasn't the normal English lessons. The teacher would sit there and go through anything that we'd developed in workshops, and then she'd break it down to make sure they could understand it in English. And then they'd Google, and she'd try and make sure that they got the right understanding. So you write a policy, and I can tell you now, management can mean many different things in many different languages, and probably not the same. So we really had the English teacher work with our coaches a lot. We partnered with HR consultant to develop a more robust recruitment strategy, but also to make sure that we put in our checks and balances. We started a psych program with our National Training Centre athletes that our coaches were part of. So they sat in, they spoke, they talked, and they listened to what the psych were telling the athletes about resilience. A nutrition curriculum, which also focused on those sort of things. And we developed a coach appraisal system. This was a key for us. When I walked in, I sat down, and in my first 3 weeks, I spoke to every single coach, and they told me how good they were because they won medals at school games. That's not what I wanted them to be focusing on. We still need to be achieving on podium success a little bit higher than national school games, but they were focusing on the medals. They weren't focusing on the athletes. So the whole appraisal system was turned upside down, and we actually focus on the processes and the outcomes we know will happen, which is what Hero was talking about. So we really made sure that if you want to come and talk to me about a pay rise, have you been looking after your athletes? We do culture surveys every 2 years. How are the athletes feeling? We do exit interviews with all the athletes. That all goes into the appraisal process. And all the national training staff are safeguarding officers. They're fully trained. At this stage, we didn't have a safe sport policy, so we developed it. And this was difficult because, as I said, we're multilingual. We actually translated into 2 other languages, Mandarin and Russian. One of the things that always hits me is you've got a policy, no one reads it. Absolutely. I'm guilty as well. So what we did was, there's a 10 quiz, you've got to do it. And it's now part of the induction process for all our clubs. You get a coach in, they've got to read the safe sport policy, and they've got to do this quick little 10 quiz to see that they've understood. So it's making sure that we bring some of these policies, which can be quite boring, to life. We've still got a lot of work to go. Our gymnasts, we introduced Athletes Commission. They're an integral part of where we move, and they're the voice. We also did the body positive guidelines that we developed. It was in consultation with the experts. We also, of course, I brought my Australian friends in to help me with this, but it wasn't just developing guidelines. There was workshops for the athletes, workshops for the coaches, and workshops for the clubs, and they continue on. Every 2 years we roll this out again. One of the things I said was parents were really important, and we need their support. So we've been partnering with parents in sport, and we've done a lot of forums with that. There's workshops that's been happening, and that's just going to get even bigger as we really embrace and work with the parents. But having a partner, we're under-resourced, having a partner that you can have to go into the charge with is terrific. We actually did, with working with parents in sport, we sat and spoke to the athletes as well and got their feedback. So they got feedback about parents, because there's pressure from the parents, not just the coaches. So how are we going to understand, how do we educate parents in that as well? While I said Sports Singapore weren't behind me in 2017, they caught up in about 2019-20. Sure, I was a little bit upset because they were telling me to redo a whole heap of things, but it was all good because it was a review time. They did a Safe Sport Unified Code that every sport, if you want to get your money, you've got to sign up and do a few things. Of course, we're there. There's a Safe Sport Commission, which also handles any of the crisis management service. So we have a neutral body if we want to. Now, people, if they want to do a complaint, they can go to either ourselves, it's managed by member protection policy, or they can go straight to Sport SG. They've also invented an amazing tool, and please go ahead and use it, education awareness modules for coaches, athletes, club administrators, parents and volunteers. That is now embedded into everything we do. If you want to travel on a team, the team managers have to have done the volunteer work. The athletes have to do the awareness, so they're aware as well, and all the coaches have to do that. And they've got safeguarding officer training, which is now across all our clubs as well as our staff. But I still feel we're just getting started, and I still feel like we haven't done enough. So this is what I'm working on in the next 6 months. I still don't think the athletes have a voice. And every time I talk to an athlete, I feel like I get frustrated because they don't feel like I have to pull it out of them all the time. What's happening? How's it going? So they still need to get more of a voice. We need to be better at communicating and making sure people know what we're doing, because that's probably our biggest problem, that we just don't communicate. But my key takeaways, you're not alone, we're all in it together. Copy, 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 plagiarise, steal, borrow, it's all there. Google, lean on other federations, sports and experts. It really does help. We are stronger together, and that's stronger as a community, as stronger as federations, but as a community of coaches, judges, athletes, parents. It does take time, and the old adage, Rome wasn't built in a day. We are changing culture. Safety is not an endpoint, it's a journey. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation and for this forum. It's very important for us, for our smaller communities, to learn from what other federations are doing with regards to bullying and sexual harassment. Apologies from the interpreter, the sound comes and goes. The interpreter apologizes. In my country, in Costa Rica, the government headed by our current president from the previous legislation, drafted legislation against the bullying and sexual harassment in sport, working with the National Olympic Committee from Costa Rica, and together with the different entities such as the sports institution and the Costa Rican sport institution. All these government departments, they joined to draft this legislation, and the deputy members of the chamber passed this legislation, giving protection to sports people, whether they're trainers, judges, referees, managers, etc. So we all work together to in the development of all the different sports people, young, elderly, children, all the people that join our federations to practice sport discipline. The legislation aims at forbid, sanction and prevent harassment and sexual harassment and bullying in the sports fields. As an abusive practice that attempts against the basic rights of individuals, whether they're sports people, coaches, managers, and other people who bring over services to different sports bodies that are covered by this legislation. This is one of the bodies, such as the federations, associations, professional leagues, amateur sports associations, promoting organizations that promote sport. They must offer a safe space where the sport happens. We must, as federations, fulfill with this. We must create our own regulation to tackle bullying and sexual harassment in sport, in all very entities. And that's how we've started from last year, our journey to ensure to achieve the maximum goals in sport when it comes to planning and prevention, bullying, and everything that protects the safety of our athletes and the environment. As my colleague, the previous speaker, mentioned, is very important to get us all involved, whether we're talking about parents, managers, sports people, coaches, and anything that is related to a sport activity, all focusing on prevention, because it's key to train, to give tools to our athletes, our managers, our different entities, the different bodies that conform all this sport architecture. And these tools must be built. We must ensure that we have a safe space that later on will bear fruit, so that our children, descendants, athletes, they feel free and they can express and say what are their needs, and we understand exactly how can we ensure that there's safe sport in all the different areas. This legislation reminds us that we must respect this in all the different spaces and at all times. It offers protection whenever there's violence aiming at any individual. And this is the way in which we must build the basis so that our children, our athletes, our coaches have got the proper tools to tackle any activity, any negative activity that takes place in that space. So this forum, I think, are essential, and they show what other federations are already doing. They show us that there's a long journey to go on, but something very important to follow. The target is clear. We need to do campaigns to bring about prevention with regard to any type of crime or violence aimed at our athletes, so that we can carry out our activity in a healthy environment, protected, and we need to follow up the complaints that must be submitted before every sport federation. And we must create also commissions hosted by experts in the field to follow up all these complaints and to ensure that we protect the victims. We must offer the highest possible protection. We are working today, we are here gathered today, listening to each other, learning, and we hope that everything that is within the framework of legislation, it's put into practice. Prevention training aimed at each and every one of the people that conform the sports federations is the most important thing. Currently, we have the tools. This legislation brings us the possibility because it sets a clear path. We also need these commissions to work together, and within our the Federal International Gymnastics Federation, we must work all together to fulfill this commitment. And it's important to work with our collaborators, athletes, coaches, and managers, and all the other people that are involved. It's key that they participate. We are against, and we make efforts to ensure that there are sanctions to all type of sexual harassment and bullying behavior in any type of situation, in whenever this is reported in our small organizations. We are here to learn. We are here, as our colleagues said, our previous speakers said, to copy. We need to copy the good things that other entities have already done, and we mustn't limit ourselves due to lack of resources. We must listen and use everything we have at our disposal to fulfill this objective. We need to work as united federations to spread knowledge, to train, to avoid bullying and sexual harassment, not just in the sexual field, but bullying in any sort of area. We need to offer a safe space to our athletes so that they can arrive there with all the intention to learn a sport. And also, we must offer this safe environment, protection. We must learn, all of us, together, focusing on one objective. We live in a society in which we must reach and have a more a fairer society, a more egalitarian society. We must stop violence and any type of discrimination in the sports field. We must set the example. As a sports federation, we must show what the objectives are. And I think we are here currently working together as sports federations in order to achieve these safe sports to support our sports people with all these activities and all these forums that we are organizing. And it's very important to spread this information, to fight together and to present the different opinions, the different actions that have been carried out in our different federations to achieve our objective, the main objective, which is to protect.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much to Lorena. Thank you to the interpreter as well. My parents were interpreters, so I have to thank the interpreters.